Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching this webinar called The Power of Art. It's a lecture where we are going to find out how the coronavirus issue, the global coronavirus issue, has affected and influenced and eventually inspired artists at any level, from young students to professional artists. I hope you will enjoy and stay with me for the whole length on the talk. Okay? Glad to meet you, and I'll see you later.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to The Power of Art, a webinar on the impact that the global epidemic is having on creativity, art, and education. I thought about this lecture for quite a while because I was amazed by how artists or even freelancer or non-artists, teachers have been reacting to the spread of the coronavirus globally, and also, of course, how many students throughout the world wanted to express their own and inner feelings by using art while they were spending most of the time at home. And so that's how I thought initially on this talk. But let me give you a very brief introduction about myself. My name is Alessandro Antonicelli, and I'm Associate Professor in Visual Communication, and I'm currently heading the Creative Arts and Design Department at Whittle Schools and Studio in Shenzhen. I've been teaching art and design in China for 16 years, and I have, I should say, a little bit of expertise in teaching art and design in China. So, without further ado, let's move on to what I call the premise of this talk. So I start from the idea very simply that we live on a beautiful planet, and this is without doubt. However, this planet has been affected sometimes by turbulences, wars, natural disaster, epidemic, just like the one we are living at the moment. But there's always been a reaction from us humans to these events, and art has been one of the tools of this reaction in many ways and forms, I should say. And that's why I thought to put together a little bit of a history about art in those days where the world was affected by epidemic. And then moving on, I will be showing some examples of how the current art scene in China has reacted to the coronavirus. Then I will be talking also about how schools and how students have been reacting to it. I will talk, of course, also about my country, Italy, which is also heavily affected. And I will wrap it up with some examples of how some creative designers, by using sense of humor, I should say, as well as digital skills, have sort of rebranded and repainted some of the most famous logos and artworks that we all know. So without further ado, let's have a look at this powerful picture to sort of introduce ourselves in the talk on how we discover the power of art. And this picture is called Meanwhile in Hong Kong by Hong Kong artist Tommy Fung. I chose this one because it represents what has been going on throughout the world. In the beginning, this was maybe just something that we could have ever imagined in Greater China, but then happening almost throughout the world. Of course, we have never really seen anything like this, so we haven't seen people really stumbling and crumbling to get masks. But ideally, this is what happened. There's people suffering because they can't get masks, and so the artist in this case want to show, oh, what if there were just two left, and what would people do to save their life? And that again is the power of art. Let me talk a little bit about history. I will be very brief on this, but it's interesting to know that even during the 17th century, Europe was hit by a very serious epidemic, and was a plague in that particular case. And artists and writers took this chance to describe visually and verbally what was going on, but also creating stories based on the plague. And even in the south of Italy, in the 17th century, 16th centuries, we had a lot of casualties due to the plague. And in this particular triptych, I wish to show how artists have been reacting to it. And these were the scenes that people were seeing in the street. So it's real art, and art in this case was heavily inspired by what people could see. They almost look like photographs in some ways. How true and how little interpretation there is to it, but mostly facts. And moving on, I would like to discuss about one particular painting, which is by Pieter Bruegel in 1550. It's called The Triumph of Death. And this painting show basically a landscape of death. The scenery is quite bleak, I should say, dead with no life blooming in any form. There are fires burning in the background and even an army of skeleton mostly. The interesting part in it is that we could see the desperation even from the colors and the overall, as I said, scenery, the overall background. I call it a Polaroid of what was going on back then, but with, of course, a little bit of filter, artistic filter to it. There are other examples. I like to mention this one in particular, the Plague of Ashdod, and this is by Nicolas Poussin, 1630. In here, we can tell there is a little bit of a balance between death and desperation, together with hope from the sky, hope from the beautiful background in some ways. This painting is currently in Louvre, and there is a very touching scene in it where we can see there is a man covering his face, trying to pull the baby away from the mother's breast to prevent contracting the disease. So again, is another Polaroid. We got rats, we got all the things that we could ever imagine in a plague. And again, a little bit of hope right there in the background, but still very strong image. In China, these days, straight after the outbreak of the coronavirus, the response from the art scene has been amazing. I am a big fan, I have to admit, of Tommy Fong, this amazing digital artist in Hong Kong. This first work is called Nowadays When You See Someone Coughing and Not Wearing a Mask. So basically the artist here is trying to tell, okay, if someone is coughing close by you, what would be your first reaction? The first reaction is that nowadays you will see him as a monster, as a virus carrier. And so he tried to show this by using his art skills. It's still in Hong Kong. Imagine how a couple facing the distance that we all are supposed to keep when we meet and greet each other. Well, imagine that on the beautiful landscape of Hong Kong Bay, people will wear maybe like astronauts while they're surrounded by the virus. Again, there is a little bit of sense of humor as well, but there are strong messages here. Just like in this case, sort of escaping from the city and everyone gathering by the peak on the hills of Hong Kong. This is a digital work. But I particularly like the message within this one. We all know what's going on in the airport. Things are changing daily. Airlines have been definitely cutting the traveling between big cities, and maybe in the near future we can imagine that passengers will be asked to leave directly from the airplane, from the aircraft, wearing a parachute. So yeah, again, these are things that an artist would imagine to show to their public and their audience. I like this one also. The reason why I like it, even though it's a very strong message here, is that maybe in the coming future, a mask will be sort of an organism, a brand new organism developed by our body. But anytime there will be a need for us to protect ourselves, maybe a mask will come out from our body, and so it's an alive mask. It's a brand new organism. I mean, we have to admit this artist has been really daring in his creativity and imagination. Moving on again to another Chinese artist, Du Han. He's a Shanghai-based artist, but he also used to travel back and forth from the States. Who are the angels nowadays? Let's think about it. That is his message. He's hinting us that if you go in a church of any belief, you see holy people, painting of holy people, sculptures, anything, carving. The only people these days are these amazing doctors, and so maybe the chapel in the future will be depicting and representing these amazing angels, the doctors and the nurses. So very strong message here as well. Again, we're talking about the doctors, and everyone has been working very hard in the hospitals, and see them as the new heroes who fight the virus daily. And these illustrations done by some Chinese bloggers tend to show basically what I just said. The new angels, the new people taking care of us. In here, some heroes from the past even, they come back. In this particular illustration, we talk about one of the most famous Chinese scientists. He was very, very big during the SARS. He was the one who actually gave hope to China and to all of those who were affected by the SARS. And then he was called back on duty, even though he's quite old now, to help on fixing this whole coronavirus thing. So again, great message there. A lot of families, they had to face the impact of the coronavirus in China. Not just those who were directly affected by the virus, but for instance, again, the doctors that were asked to move from one province to another province to support, for instance, the Wuhan hospitals, where those were actually sacrificing their family time because there was also kind of a cross Chinese New Year. Yet they left, and they were very happy in some ways to volunteer and help the country and help people. And the nurses wearing masks for so many hours, surrounded by a deadly virus. You know, how tough can be for a professional nurse, for a professional doctor. We cannot imagine, but I think it's not easy. And so again, this illustration tend to show a little bit of this as well. But as someone who is deeply in love for Chinese art and calligraphy, of course, I could not avoid to show also some of the examples that I like the most, who are related with Chinese calligraphy. Even though these are digital work, but I really love the way that by using the meaning and by using what was going on in the country, people created beautiful digital calligraphy work. And in here we could see even a little bit of the famous propaganda poster that during the 40s in China were basically communicating strong messages to the people. And we could see this sort of coming back by using certain colors, by using certain styles, but updated, let's say, to the current strong message of fighting an invisible enemy, and by doing this, being brother most of all. At school, at any school, but of course in our Whittle school in particular, there has been also a lot of work done by teachers and students in terms of inspiration. Again, this has affected family life and created meaningful artworks in general. In Shenzhen, during our online projects, we even had art classes just related with this topic, and both students and parents, they were using either traditional or digital art, and they were basically contributing in adding colors and feeling to their daily lockdown routine.
For example, one of my brilliant colleagues at the Creative Arts and Design Department at Whittle, Shenzhen, created this very interesting lesson plan. A lesson plan where she could involve both parents and teachers. The objective was to create a universe, their own universe, by using something that certainly they could find at home: eggs. So she was asking basically to draw on their eggs, paint them, and by doing so create planets.
Do you know how can I do that? Follow me. Let's start.
Actually, the students really loved this project, and they worked together, as I said, with the parents, following exactly the instructions given by the teacher.
I'd like to show some of the outcomes, and it's interesting to see that the students were happy to show even on video what they have done.
大家好，我叫姚诗涵。我今天做的蛋壳星球就是土星。我觉得其他
So in this particular case, this student of grade 2 is very happy to describe on camera to the teacher, but to the audience in general, what she has done with her work. So this was the approach that we had. Although this is just one example, I have many, but I just want to show you a little bit on how we actually tackle the online learning. And then this same process was used also in the production of artwork related with the coronavirus. Chinese students have been really working in a very creative way to showcase their feelings, and again, these works are amazing just because they tell stories beside the technical part and the actual art skills. Again, the famous doctors trying to stop the virus, hospitals, and people reacting with positivity to the whole issue. In our school, also students have been creating amazing works, not just by using colors and paper, but also a sort of collage, different tools like paper glue. So again, very beautiful, what I call reaction to it, very positive in many ways. Fight the enemy and make sure that we're all happy, we're all healthy, globally, not just in China. We try to make sure that they could use whatever they had at home, because there was no way they could go out, or the parents could go out to buy something, at least in the very beginning of the outbreak. Yet, look at the powerful images that we were able to collect, the mix between digital art, illustrations, calligraphy, and traditional Chinese painting as well. Even sort of robots, warrior, but actually they are dressed like ancient Chinese gods, fighting and protecting the hospital. We got this amazing painting. So again, super strong messages there by students, again from grade 1 to grade 10. But as I mentioned before, the actual outbreak of the coronavirus started in Wuhan. Wuhan now is getting a lot better. Remember that in Wuhan there were hospitals built in 10 days. All these hospitals now have been basically dismantled, or at least there are no more cases for many days. And so people are recovering, getting better and better, and Wuhan is opening back again. And so Wuhan, the municipality, has been working very hard together with the local graphic designer to thank all the provinces in China that have been sending the help, sending their love to Wuhan to make sure that they could survive, they could support and be supported. And so they created a series of posters where, by using beautiful typefaces and colors and layout, they thank all the provinces in China. So basically, in one word, Wuhan thanking the whole country for what the whole country has done for them during this really, really super tough days. My country in Italy, unfortunately, has seen even more casualties than China. But China was there to help them, to help our country, to help my country and my people. And not just my country, my people, but actually a lot of help from China has been also provided to many other countries affected. In this particular case, I'm glad to show how did we react as Italian to this issue. We could see Italy as a red country because the whole country is a red zone, red area. We have Chinese and Italian doctors supporting the country. How did we react to it? Well, I'm going to show you now a very quick video. Let's have a look. So, for example, the Mona Lisa, someone taking a selfie with the Mona Lisa wearing a mask, or the virus embedded in bubbles. How tough is life at home when you feel so constrained? Coronavirus, corona means also crown. And this beautiful illustration showing how the virus also affects the masks itself. And then, like a cage, like a jail. So again, this was a short report to show some of the works by Italian artists. The work done by Mattia Fiore is an artist that got inspired by the masks. And so he created a series of masks with beautiful, cheerful, and I should say happy colors to show that, okay, at the end of the day, by protecting ourselves, we protect others. So let's be happy for what we are doing when we wear a mask. Italian, as you know, are famous also for their singing skills in many cases. So many Italians, professional or not, have been singing on the balconies. Not just for releasing themselves, but also to support and cheer others, cheer the neighborhood. And this has been a huge movement in the very first days of the outbreak.
chiuso in me, il nome
rebranding, repainting is the name I gave to this part of the lecture. And the reason why I call it like this is because in this specific area, which is more focused on graphic design, it means that some graphic designer decided to play a little bit with the idea that the coronavirus has created a new language, a new communication, basically. And so even the logo of the companies have changed based on this new way of communicating and behaving in public. Think about, for instance, the new rule of keeping distance between people, and another social rule that has been introduced due to the coronavirus is the mask. So wearing the mask.
McDonald's have been rebranding themselves actually. Among all these pictures I'm showing you, the McDonald's one is the one done by them directly actually. So they have sort of rebranded themselves in those times of coronavirus. And you know, again, sad and fun in the same time. The beer brand called Corona, they are now looking for a new name because they've been sort of hit badly by the whole issue. And then some of the most famous painting in the world sort of repainted and updated to the days of coronavirus. Of course, the mask is basically the symbol, the face mask is the symbol of this virus in some ways. And so imagine Mona Lisa, Frida Kahlo, Caravaggio, Van Gogh, you name it. So some interesting designers, graphic designers have been thinking on how actually to also have a little bit of fun, if you would. We need that too in these tough days. We come into the conclusion, and my points are: art and design is always a good way to let go. So when we are in need, when we are at home, when we cannot go out, art come and help us. So inspire yourself, use your creativity, even though you think you don't have, just challenge yourself and go for it. It's also true that art needs inspiration, but art can also inspire. And so art has been inspired by the coronavirus, but now that we are creating artworks, other artists are inspired by what we are doing with our art. And so it's a cycle. All of these pictures basically are portraying a very special time in history. Sad but special. Remember the picture I showed you in the beginning of this talk? Plug in the 16th century. Those were Polaroid, were pictures basically photographing in a snapshot the whole situation. And this is what artists are now doing for ourselves and for the future generation. And also, of course, digital art is allowing us to experiment even further, to show and convey messages to the current and the future generation. I hope you have enjoyed this talk. I hope you have liked it, and I'm keeping updating this presentation in the coming future, and hopefully I can show more to you. Thanks a lot everyone, and stay healthy, stay safe.